it is operating on the dark side of the moon. So, and today is a little special. It's a little special. We're changing venues a bit. We're outdoors doing some grilling, and y'all got me for about another 20 degrees, so this might be a short one. But yeah, so I want to talk about something that's been kind of a bee in the old bonnet recently. A that's been stuck in my craw, as we like to say. And that would be our buddies, our pals, our saviors at the Lincoln Project. And for those of you who are normal folks and don't pay attention to this kind of insane thing, the Lincoln Project is a collection of ex Republicans, or some of them are still identify as Republicans, and they have formed a political action committee, which is something that you put together when you want to buy ads so that you can promote a particular candidate, where they are running ads against Donald Trump. They're Republicans, right? And that's the big selling point. Is look at us, we're conservatives, and but even we can see that Trump is the end of society as we know it, and a bad thing, which I don't necessarily disagree with. And I actually don't mind them running the ads. But I saw an interview yesterday with one of the guys that kind of runs the place, or at least is responsible for the messaging. And he he made the point that the country is realigning a little bit. It seems like he worked for Romney and Bush, and I believe he was involved in the in Bush Senior's campaign, and was around when, of course, Reagan, the OG Big Daddy of these people, when Ronald Reagan ran for president. And I am convinced, I'm more and more convinced that that period in American history, the period between like the reaction to the 60s, is probably the most pivotal moment in modern American history and politics. More so than the civil rights movement, more so than the tech environment that we find ourselves in, um, more so than the events surrounding JFK. It is an incredibly important period of American history, because if you understand the machinations of the people at the time, then you can start to see why there was a consistent, or there has become a consistent conservative base in this country. These people figured out how to mobilize the evangelicals. I mean, we talked about this the other day, right? They figured out how to mobilize evangelicals. They figured out how to mobilize people in rural communities. And I am back to the OG, that Bud Light, folks. Folks, stick stick to the original. The brand is the name brand is the way to go. And so these folks have put together this pack that they're running ads and trolling Trump about how his ratings are bad, or his wife's ugly, or whatever, and trying to get under his skin. And I saw an interview with one of these guys that has just recently written a book about this, and he was basically talking about how there is a certain segment of this country that are compassionate conservatives. There are people that they're on the right, but they're economically conservative, but socially liberal, right? This is that big falsehood that never existed, that crept up in the 90s. And they've just rebranded to be these Lincoln people, right? And he, well, I don't mind them running the ads, of course. I mean, any money that's spent to beat Trump, I guess, is fine, whatever. I don't mind them running the ads, but I think that there is something to be said about why they would be doing that. These people are some of the most skilled political operatives in our country right now. They're not doing this out of the kindness of their heart. They're not doing this just because they feel like it's the nice thing to do, right? And so my thinking on this is my immediate thought on this is they see a political realignment on the horizon. And if you're anything like me, you have a bunch of very smooth-brained relatives and maybe even friends that like to bring up to you the fact that the Democratic Party is the party of the KKK, and they were the party that was, excuse me, that was for slavery. They were the party that was, for Jim Crow and all that kind of stuff, right? They like to bring that up, completely ignoring the fact that we had a wholesale political realignment in this country, a century ago. So, yeah, sure, but um, that would be like saying the uh, the Tennessee Titans are actually the Houston Oilers, and we're all living in a conspiracy theory. Well, no, the Tennessee Titans used to be the Houston Oilers, and then they moved, and now they are no longer the Houston Oilers. So that would be like you living in Houston and being like, no, 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 for sure, I'm a Titans fan because really they're the Houston Oilers. Well, okay, I guess that's fine, but that's not that's not the reality. And so they see themselves these Lincoln Project ghouls that are spending these millions of dollars on their own salaries mostly, but also on these ads. They see a political realignment on the horizon that I actually agree with. I think that this is coming. There is this movement, especially on the left, where I find myself, where I think a lot of you guys find yourselves. There is a movement on the left that is, uh, we need to start a workers' party. We need to start a third party. We need to, draft Bernie and run him as a third party candidate. Or, damn, I wish Bernie would have run as the third party, right? Or just fuck both of these candidates. I'm going to vote for. I'm going to vote third party. Screw it, right? And where I think that energy is actually going to go is that the project of the Republican Party has completely failed. It has completely failed. It 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 it's very clear that Reaganism and actual conservatism, right? Because people forget Reagan gave amnesty to like 8 million illegal immigrants. Reagan was Reagan wanted to move to a universal healthcare system. If Reagan was alive and in politics today, he would be considered, you know, Ilhan Omar, basically. I mean, that's how far to the right the Republican Party has moved since then. And so I think that where the third party energy is actually going to end up going is that the Republicans are going to go the way of the dinosaur. They are the actual conservatives that still exist on this planet are so outnumbered and out yelled and out resourced by the Trump constituency that they're not going to exist anymore. These people aren't going to be around in 10, 15 years, right? It's just an inevitability. And what it will be replaced with is the QAnon people, the like Pizzagate QAnon Trumpists that have decided like this is what we're buying into Trump land, and that is our politics. And then you're going to have the Democratic Party, Big D, which the Nancy Pelosi's Democratic Party, and they are going over the next 10, maybe 15 years. They will tack to the right. They will move to be. I'm about to have a guest, I think. They will move to the right. What's up, buddy? They will move to the right, and they are going to become kind of the center right version of the party, the new home for this conservative mindset, right? And it won't be Nancy Pelosi. She'll be either retired and almost dead or dead by then. But she's basically dead now, and uh, they will they're going to tack to the right. These are going to be your kind of Chuck Schumer type of Democrats. Your Steve, what's his nuts from West Virginia, the dude. Uh, I don't know, the guy from West Virginia with the stupid name. Him, the Chris Coons, like these people who are just like dyed in the wool, like hard D Democrats. They will eventually just realize that it's politically advantageous for them, and they're doing it already, to move to the right and scoop off a few of these Republican voters, and that's what will sustain their party. And then you're going to have the party of the left, the AOC, Ilhan Omar, Bernie Sanders kind of wing of politics that is going to be its own party. So yes, and if not in name, then in function for sure, right? So yes, we are moving towards a world with three parties. I just think that the idea that we're going to manifest a left kind of like Labor Party out of nowhere, especially with the amount of concentrated power that capital has in this country, is pretty unrealistic, my guy. I mean, you're not going to have like a massive labor movement in this country. If anything, you might have those people who are actually on the left move a little and grow enough in numbers to where they have some actual voting power and they have some actual ability to sway policy one way or the other. But the forces of capital that operate in this country are not going to allow for that to happen without it being counterbalanced by a center right party and a right, children are being shipped in Wayfair boxes party. And yeah, so the danger of fetishizing what the Lincoln Project is doing and treating the Lincoln Project like it's some sort of paragon of centrism. And, hold on. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. I gotta check this. Ooh, buddy. Ooh, buddy. Can you? I mean, come on. Let's appreciate that for just a moment. Not quite there, but yeah. So they will, and so these Republicans who are being drained out of the right. What up, man? Watch out, that's hot. So these Republicans that are being drained out of the right and just basically being shouted down by the Trumpists of the world, who will eventually become the Republican Party, because that's what it does, is it just continues to get more reactionary in the face of a broadening multicultural coalition, of the diminishment of the dominance of white people over the population. That's just what they do. They become reactionary. And so they will continue to get extremely reactionary, and they will continue to get extremely far right, and just kind of form their own thing, right? Because it's just like the Tea Party, except the problem with the Tea Party was they sort of, the Republican Party was able to adapt because it wasn't that far of a leap, and it served their interests to be like, well, yeah, we shouldn't have taxes. You're right. And so we ended up, dang, you're right. You gonna live? Is that from the pool or did you step on a rock? That sucks, man. So anyway, they get more reactionary and more right wing the more that they're pushed. And this is a very easy leap. This is now it's a very easy leap, because once you've had Trump and once you've believed that there are people flying all over the country to go to these protests and burn buildings down and stuff because Antifa, Antifa. Once you can believe that, right? Once you can believe that, like, some of the most uncoordinated, politically involved people in the world, namely the left, has coordinated this mass nationwide protest and business destruction orgy that George Soros is financing, or whatever the hell. It's really not that hard to make the next leap of, well, yeah, that's happening. But we're also going to believe that there are children being sold into sex slavery out of the basement of a specific pizza shop in the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan area, or being shipped in furniture boxes disguised as Wayfair merchandise, or John F. Kennedy Jr. is still alive and voted for Trump and is a big Trump fan. These are not huge leaps for these people to make. And so they because of everything else that they've bought into. There are millions of illegal votes, and you should vote twice, and that was hilarious. I mean, say what you want about Trump, but he just does not give a shit. He'll just say whatever, just say whatever. And when somebody questions him on it, he just goes, "Well, I have to get back to you on that." But a lot of people are saying it. Antifa, China, the China virus. And so, yeah, I think allowing these people to infiltrate the Democratic Party will have an outcome that. What? Doing a video? What are you doing? He went that way. Anyway, so I think that it's going to have the outcome that people who call themselves Democrats right now are not going to like. This whole you get into bed with your enemy. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. That normally doesn't work out. Like, sure, it works out in the short term, and you might gain a couple thousand votes. You might win an election here and there, and you might be able to use their money and their political strategy to be able to make all of these effective. I use that word. That word's doing a lot of work there. Effective political ads. Maybe. But in the long term, you're going to hollow out the Democratic Party, and you're going to turn around in 10 or 15 years and belong to a party with people like George W. Bush feeling comfortable hanging out with you. And I'm sorry, but it wasn't but 15 years ago that the actual Democratic Party in this country would not have stood for that. And because the Overton window continues to shift to the right, and because we continue to see a reactionary response to the fall of American capitalism and to the complete inability to correctly distribute our resources to serve people's actual material needs. Because of that, we're going to end up in a situation where we will have third parties by accident, and you will not like the ones that are in charge because you are selling your soul to the devil to beat a guy that you don't like. And if you don't think that the people inside of the Lincoln Project and the people running that PAC are unaware of this, if you think they have not made this calculation and they have not thought, well, shit, I've already made a public bet that the Republican Party is going to dissolve into Trumpism. And so my position in politics is contingent on the fact that we set up some sort of center-right constituency that has enough funding and staff and slots for me to accommodate my way of life until it's time for me to retire and move to, wherever the ghouls live. I'm sorry, that's absurd. These people are some of the most calculating people in American political history. Of course they're making that calculation. They're not spending all their money. White Claw overboard. They're not spending all their money and wasting all of this time and effort and shooting themselves politically in the foot by going against the leader, whether we like it or not, the leader of the Democratic Party, because they've all of a sudden found a conscience. I mean, these were the people that where were these people at when we invaded Iraq? Where were these people at when Reagan made his campaign announcement in front of a wall of Confederate flags and said that the Civil War was about states' rights? They were nowhere to be found. Why? Because they're full of shit. They haven't just found some sort of magical. Where were they when Trump rode down the escalator? Where were they when Trump accused Ted Cruz's dad of being involved in the JFK assassination? Where were they when, the grab her by the pussy tape came out? Where were they when Trump claimed that millions of people voted illegally? Well, they were loving that shit because it was politically advantageous. But unfortunately, it's not anymore for them. And so they have to find a new avenue to make money, and they have to find a new avenue to have a job in politics. And that just happens to be that they are going to burrow into the Democratic Party and eat it from the inside like cancer. And unfortunately, the Democrats have set themselves up in the perfect position to allow for that by incrementalizing everything to death for the last 30 years. And so people look at that party and they say, well, this is bullshit. The Democrats don't do anything for me. They put out a bunch of shit that you got to fill out 55 different forms about. You have to be a certain percentage of a minority, and the company that you work for has to have a diversity ratio of XYZ. And there's a million different equality, bathroom rules and who can cook what for whoever, and all this bullshit nonsense that alienates people. And so now they're going to end up in a position where they haven't used their leverage. They haven't used their political power to push back against this shit. And so it will just eat them because it's politically powerful. And so because it's politically powerful. There's a reason these people have been doing this reactionary shit for 30 years, 40 years, because it works. And because now, whether intentionally or not, because now you've set up Trump as this big giant poltergeist boogeyman, you're going to sell your party out. And you might eat a few of these progressives. In the meantime, you might eat somebody like AOC and drag her into the center. Or somebody like Elizabeth Warren, who I think is more progressive than people give her credit for. Ideologically. I mean, certainly her political instincts are absolutely stupid. But ideologically, I think she's more progressive than people give her credit for. And like I said, you will turn around in 10 or 15 years and it will be 20% of the country believes everything that Trump says, and that, hey, buddy, that John F. Kennedy Jr. is still alive and pulling the strings behind the scenes, and there's this giant sex trafficking cabal that is going to kill all of our children. And then you'll have 30% of the country that says they're in the middle, and they will be today's Republicans. And then, if not, maybe 10% more reasonable. And then you will have 30% of the country that, or less than that probably, 20% of the country that will be on the actual left. And you're saying, well, Kyle, that's only 70%. Yeah, because you're going to alienate people, and people, in this process, you will alienate people, and they won't fucking vote anymore. See if I can make this work. Oh. Ooh, ooh, look at that. I did it. I'm prepared for every eventuality. So yeah, these people are they are rotting out the center of the party that is currently lionizing them. That is currently saying they're the best thing that's ever happened because they're willing to say that Trump's a bad person. Well, that's easy. Anybody can do that. Anybody can say Trump's a bad person. That's easy. Woo-wee. Woo-wee. Right? I mean, that's low-hanging fruit in my mind. And dressing it up, the more nefarious thing is that it gets dressed up as we are, this is a bridge too far. We are compassionate conservatives. And so we don't think people should be treated this way. And in a land of moral justice and individual liberty and dignity, this is just unacceptable, right? This is their big sales pitch to everybody. Is listen, I sat there while Mitt Romney degraded 50% of the country as moochers and non-taxpayers and douchebags. I sat there while Bush lied us into uh, you know multiple wars in countries that to never did anything offensively, while I let my buddies in Saudi Arabia get away with basically funding the guys who did 9/11. Uh, I stood by while Trump denied that a pandemic was a real thing. I ignored that. Oh, that is a giant velvet ant thing. One of those nasty, like, wasps without wings. Jesus. I stood by while all that happened. And, that didn't really bother me. I was cool with that. I allowed for all that. In fact, I might have been in the rooms where we came up with those ideas. But now it's a bridge too far. And the thing is this mindset actually enables the QAnons of the world, because it looks like Trump is owning these people. Because he is. He's absolutely owning these people. Hey, Weston. Kiddo. Hey, I need you to run inside as fast as you can and either tell mommy I need a big plate or get a big plate and carefully carry it out here. Fast as you can, please. Thank you, sir. Yeah. So those two things can't be congruent. You can't say, no, I was fine with all that stuff. I was fine with the idea of, like, endless war, tax cuts that immiserated millions of working people and regular people in this country. I was fine with all that. That was cool. I was good with that. But Trump being rude about it is really a bridge too far for me, because that's all that bothers these people. They're not separated on policy. They don't actually think that, like, what Trump's doing is particularly bad in some way, or that it's you can sit in his office if you want. Oh, okay. They don't think what Trump is doing is particularly bad or anything. In fact, he's incredibly effective. He's doing the shit that they wanted to do, right? He's getting away with it because he says the quiet part out loud. Yeah, kiddo. Sure. Yeah, you can sit on it. Um, he does the quiet shit out loud, and he said, "Whoa, buddy, let's be way careful with that, please." Thank you, dear. Yes, sir. There is a cup holder in the lawnmower. Yeah, you can. That's not what I'm on camera. That's where I'm on camera. Whoop! There he is. You ready for dinner? Go play with your brother. I'll call you for dinner in just a minute. No, no, no. That's hot. Don't touch it. Go on. Go back. I'm on the thing. Go back in the building. He's talking to you. Jeez. Yeah, so they're totally fine with this. It's not hurting their feelings at all, what Trump is getting accomplished. It's basically, they like what he's doing. They're just upset with the fact that they couldn't do it to begin with, and they weren't very effective at doing it. And it's irritating to them that all of that time that they spent being like, listen, you can't do that, Americans aren't going to stand for it, was just a waste of time and effort. And they're upset. Not to mention, it makes them look like idiots because they've spent the last 30 years telling candidates, both on the federal and the local level, no, 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 don't do that. The American people won't like it. And now Trump's getting everything that they wanted to begin with. They look like morons, and so they're out of jobs. He went around that side. What? He's over there. Uh-oh. This is a big boy. I can cook all the way through. So be careful what you wish for. Be careful whose money you accept to accomplish this goal that you say you have. in defeating Trump, because you might turn around one day and the strange bedfellows that you thought you were temporarily making might just get to put a D after their name and might have permanent spots on places like MSNBC and CNN. And you will have lost. I mean, really, Democrats have already lost the ideological battle in this country, right? Because it doesn't matter what people think; it matters who votes. And the people who vote largely agree with Republicans. They largely agree with the right wing. So it doesn't really matter who you convince. It doesn't really matter how convinced the American people are of your brilliant ideas. What matters is, excuse me, what matters is who you convince and how many of those people you can. Yes, huh? I need a little help here. Oh no, water in it. All right, you ready? Pick it up in a minute when all the water runs out. And I think there's way too many of you out there that are willing to make giant political compromises and sell your soul a little bit just to beat Trump. And do I think that, obviously we should have the goal of beating him, right? I mean, it's a problem. This guy is a real issue. I agree. But I also think that, yeah, let me finish cooking this piece and then I'll come over there, okay? It's that whole thing of like, what is it to have won Virginia, but to have lost the whole South? That whole deal of like, yeah, sure, you beat Trump, but what's left, right? Like you've made your Thanos throw Gamora off the cliff bargain at this point. Hey, that's really hot. Do not touch it. Yep, that's really hot. Please do not touch it. It'll still be really hot, and you still shouldn't touch it. Coffee? That's not coffee. That's a grill, son. Oh, if it gets to the black thing, then it'll be really hot. Really, really hot. We really don't want to touch it then, right? Yeah, that's 100. Very hot. Why don't you go find your brother? I think he went over by the cars. Oh, he's running? Mm. Like I said, be careful what you wish for. Because with these folks, like, you might definitely get it. And you might give these people a second chance at a job. And on their first chance, they were able to escalate a complete shit show in the Middle East. They were able to defund most of the public programs in this country. They were able to talk people out of the value of public education. They were able to talk people out of the value of public health care. They were able to talk people out of the value of public resources to fight poverty and homelessness. And if you allow these people a position, yeah, buddy. It's way too cold, buddy. It's been raining. Anyway, if you allow these people in a position, in a party that gets the vast majority of media coverage in this country, you will fail. You will lose that ideological argument that you claim to care so much about. So, finish cooking? Oh, wow. Okay, I'll be in just a minute. I gotta start the broccoli. Oh, wow. I'm about to put the lid back on and leave it on for a little bit. What's a while? Yes, sir. A snail. Nice. Maybe like 20 minutes, half an hour. Mm, feel free. All right, I'm gonna let y'all go, but viewing pleasure.